Hello there, Romans here, and welcome to my next music review. Today it's going to be Reach the Great Divine.
Music review. Music review.
Reach is a Swedish power rock trio, as they advertise themselves. It's a group that rose to fame with their cover of a song Wake Me Up from Avicii, for which they gained 3.2 million views on YouTube, and then they released the first album in 2015. And lately they've gone through quite a lot of lineup changes, because it's the lead singer and the guitar player and the drummer, the only two members that remain in the group, and they found a new bass player, and they fired the singer from the first album. Actually, the singer from the first album wasn't really that good, so I don't even know why they had him in the first place, because when you hear this guy sing, he's like much better. I discovered this group on a page called 0 Day Rock, which is a page that promotes quite a lot of artists in progressive rock, in melodic rock, in AOR and all those rock genres. And they always post some new records there, some reviews. And it's been a while, it's been a year and a half or maybe 2 years since I've took any recommendation from that site. I'm not counting in the groups that I know or the groups that I like and I know that they release new records. I'm talking about discovering new artists. I listen to approximately 400 records per year, so discovering new artists is not really my priority anymore. It has to be really very exceptional and unique for me to check them out, because otherwise it's just so overwhelming with so many artists I still want to listen to. But somehow I just went on that page. There were a couple of records that got my attention because of their covers. Reach was one of those groups, and I've checked their video, The Great Divine, and I was blown away by that song. Since yesterday I've heard that record 6 times, so let's look at how it sounds.
No one cares.
When it comes to the songwriting, when I first saw the video for The Great Divine, based on their image and based on the first couple of notes I've heard, I thought that Reach are going to be just like every other group playing retro 70s/80s rock, but I was quite mistaken. This record is pretty versatile and very colorful, which is exactly what I like about it. I'm gonna get to it in a second. The album opens up with the song Into Tomorrow, which has sort of an intro at the beginning, and then you've got a very epic, solid rock song. The second track, The Great Divine, is just one of the best rock songs I've heard in a little while. It's a really great track that starts with a kind of traditional 70s-ish riff, but then the whole chorus has a very prog feeling, and especially the midsection with violin is just really great. I really love when I listen to music and there is something I wouldn't expect. That doesn't happen very often, especially with me having heard more than 3,000 records. It really takes something interesting for me to get my attention, but this is really a great song. I loved it. The next track, Live or Die, is something like a heavy metal meets 70s classic rock meets electronic pop. This is a song that has very strong h.e.a.t vibe. h.e.a.t is a group that I've reviewed also, their latest record Into the Great Unknown, and they have the same producer, so that's probably the reason why there are certain similarities in the hooks, in the vocals. The fourth track, Nightmare, is a sort of a darker and heavier, almost spooky song, which is also pretty original. I liked it. The fifth track, Of the Edge, when I first heard that track I was like, it really reminds me of the early Alter Bridge, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. And when you listen to the first Alter Bridge record, which is called One Day Remains, just listen to the title track, One Day Remains. These two songs are really very similar. The next song, One Life, has very U2 With or Without You feeling at the beginning. It's a very electro-pop kind of song. It's a song that I can imagine being played on the radios, but what I like is that it's not necessarily very cliche-like song. It has a pretty distinctive, pretty catchy, but quite original melody, which I like about it. The next track, Running on Empty, will immediately remind you of the song Best of You from Foo Fighters. It's another one of those kind of pop rock songs. Shame is another kind of pop rock song with some heavier parts in the middle. And there's a little weird thing happening. If you listen to the song approximately from 51st to the 53rd second, there is something weird happening with the vocals, with the voice. Something like auto-tune gone wrong, or I don't know, it was kind of weird effect. Just listen to it. It's, I think, exactly the 52nd second of the song. Wow, that's interesting. The 9th track is called h.e.a.t, which is again sort of like a pop rock / hard rock song. I really love the bridge, where first you hear some falsetto, then you hear some raspy voice, and again falsetto, raspy. It's very interesting. The last track is called River Deep, which is sort of like a bluesy ballad with some soul feeling and really powerful chorus. It's a more experimental track, and it has quite an interesting atmosphere, and I really like the string arrangements in this song. You can clearly hear that this record was written with very high commercial ambitions. Many of the songs are made so that they could be played on radios. They are pretty short. Even when we think about this record as a rock record, there are only 3 songs where you have guitar solos: Into Tomorrow, Nightmare, and River Deep. And I like that the sound is very full, despite the fact that this is a trio where you have drums, bass and guitars. The record is, as I said, commercial, but I wouldn't say that the record is necessarily cheesy or predictable. All the melodies are written in a way that they can attract even more picky listeners. If this was a classical rock record with predictable patterns and structures, I wouldn't probably listen to it as many times as I did. I like the melody, the songwriting is pretty good. I would like to see this group experimenting a little more with various genres and sounds, and maybe even not be afraid of doing longer songs with some more complex melodies. Now you can write 2 or 3 hits that may make it to the radio, but the rest you can do whatever you want. When it comes to the production, this record has a top-notch, world-class production, similarly to h.e.a.t. The whole record is very compressed, very loud, you can hear everything in the same level. I'm not a big fan of this kind of production because I don't want to say every big or every major group, but almost every group that can afford this kind of production has exactly the same production. There isn't anything to make them different sonically from any other group because of this. You know, I've just recorded my first album. It's going to be something pretty unique, progressive rock without guitars. There's drums, bass, saxophone and keyboards, and production was also something that I was pretty aware of. Most of the records, including this one, have a dynamic range of approximately 4, which is really very compressed sound, and it's not really that pleasant for your ears. Music has to breathe. This music is very sterile in terms of production. My record, for instance, has dynamic range approximately at 9, which is a pretty high. It's not as big as in the 80s, but it's a very, very different approach, because the bigger the dynamics you have, the more quiet your music gets. And of course the logic tells you to turn up the volume, but you know, radios with the competition you have to be loud. So the production is pretty similar to all the other groups. It's very loud. I'm not a big fan of this production. I would like to see groups making records that breathe a little more. But I guess it's popular now. And if you want to get on the radio, then you really have to have a production like this, where everything is compressed and everything is very loud. I really like the lead vocals of Ludwig Turner, who is the singer and the guitar player of the group. I haven't seen any live clips of this group. I would be really interested in seeing whether he can pull off these songs live. If he can, then he's one hell of a singer. And it's interesting because when you hear the first song, Into Tomorrow, he starts with a very raspy voice that immediately reminded me of Bruce Dickinson from early 90s, like when you listen to the Be Quick or Be Dead or Holy Smoke, that kind of voice. But there are many moments, like for example in the song Off the Edge, where he reminded me of Miles Kennedy, especially in his middle range. And in some of the higher notes he really has that Miles Kennedy kind of vibe, but it's like Miles Kennedy on the overdrive. And in the last song, River Deep, he's got one scream that reminded me of Glenn Hughes. So the vocals are pretty impressive. So I would personally give this record 8 points out of 10. It means this is a very good album. I think if you like hard rock, if you like modern rock, if you like a group that doesn't necessarily do everything in a predictable way, but has catchy songs nevertheless, this is a record for you. Definitely check it out. I have some high hopes for this group. In Slovak, the Great Divine means Veľká pretucha.
Ty si veľká pretucha.
I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, don't forget to
like, to share, to subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook. You can find links in the
comment section below. And if you have heard this record already, or if you checked it after this review. Let me know in the comment section below, and if there are any bloopers at the end, then wait for them. So, thanks for watching.
You are welcome as well.
So, lady, my name's h.e.a.t, I'm the lead singer of Deedsville, baby.
A ešte za sebou máš plišaky. A Dizzy. I hate you, I hate you.
Reach is a Swedish power trio, as they...
That wasn't me. Aj Marko píše.
Ako je náročnejší listener?
Hej. Náročný. Picky, difficult, exacting, hard,
Picky.
ambitious. Picky, hej.